Okay, good night. I'm Murilo Marchioro. I'm a biophysics professor from the University of Sergipe in the northeast region of Brazil. And tonight we are here in Rome, the magnificent Rome, and in the neighborhood of Trastevere, to interview Dr. Ulisse Di Corpo.
Hello.
To talk for us about syntropy, which is a very interesting phenomena with many implications for science. Good night, Dr. Ulisse. Thank you for the interview.
Thank you.
I would start asking you what's the meaning? What is syntropy? What's the meaning of this word?
Well, the word comes from Greek. It is made of two parts: syn, which means converging, and tropos, which means tendency. So it means converging tendency. And it was coined by Luigi Fantapié in 1941. He was one of the major mathematicians of the last century, and he was working on the fundamental equations of the universe, which have two solutions. One is diverging energy from the past to the future, and the other one is energy that diverges backward in time from the future to the past. For us, that we move towards the future, this second type of energy is converging energy. And studying the properties of this energy, Fantapié discovered that they were exactly the properties of life. So he suggested that the physical world is caused by the energy that diverges from the past to the future, whereas life is caused by this energy that moves backwards in time.
Okay. Well, from what I have been reading about syntropy, it seems to me that it means some general properties of nature, very important, basic general property.
Yes, in this idea, entropy and syntropy, entropy would be energy that diverges from the past, and syntropy that diverges from the future. They always play together. Everything that happens in our universe is a meeting point between these two types of energy. For example, if you have an emitter, you need to have an absorber. You have gravity and you have light. There are always two aspects of reality. And the important point is also the fact that we introduce the future in science, and that means that life, the universe, has a purpose, has a direction towards which it's evolving.
Mm-hmm. Well, since you talk about life, and I myself as a biologist, I entered the biology because of the evolutionary theory of Charles Darwin. So, is there a relationship among syntropy and evolution?
Well, according to syntropy, life is caused by the future. So we would be in a way guided by attractors that we feel and give information and energy to life. It is not a process of random selection, but it is a process of converging towards attractors. And attractors have very special properties, like one of the properties is non-locality. That means that all the information that comes from individuals, they get to the attractors, which select only what is advantageous for the species. And then this information is spread back and goes to all the individuals. So it's a collective process, the process of evolution.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it seems that you need a certain way syntropy to understand better the evolution. Well, we are not seeing much papers on syntropy in academy right now. Do you know what's the opinion? Because what happened?
Well, usually in the scientific world, there is a dogma that causes must always precede their effects. So when you start talking about attractors in the future that have an effect in the present, this seems to be impossible, and it conflicts with this basic idea that causes must precede always their effects.
Yeah, because I'm thinking because the mathematical approach, it seems to me that is ready, and the physical interpretation. What's needing for syntropy gains?
Well, my impression was that we needed experiments, and now the experiments are there. They can be repeated quite easily, and one of the basic experiments is that if life is nourished by syntropy, by this backward in time energy, the parameters of the autonomic nervous system that supports living functions should react before stimuli. And you can easily organize experiments where you, for example, show emotional images and neutral images, and you measure the heart rate or the skin conductance. And what you will find is that the skin conductance and the heart rate react before emotional stimuli. So it's like if our autonomic nervous system is able to feel the future in advance. And this type of experiments are, in a way, they support the syntropy theory, and the syntropy theory formulates hypotheses of this type, that we can have reactions before their causes.
Well, this is, I had the opportunity to read this beautiful data done by Antonella Vanini. And well, she talks about retrocausality. What retrocausality is?
The idea is that you have causality that moves forward in time, and retrocausality that moves backward in time. So when we put syntropy in the general picture, we have these two types of causality that continuously interact. And retrocausality comes from the future, so in a way it's not deterministic, whereas causality comes from the past and it is deterministic. You can very well see this in quantum mechanics, where, for example, matter is always in two different forms. One, it is waves, and the other one is particles. Particles are the expression of the past, and waves are the expression of the future, according to this interpretation.
Mm-hmm. Well, recently I have heard something is happening in Brazil with the experience of Dr. Ernest Gosch.
Yes.
And he speaks about Syncope agriculture or something like that. Can you comment on this?
Well, the idea is that the intelligence comes from the future. And so when we want to grasp this intelligence, we don't really have to use our mind, but we have to use our intuition, our autonomic nervous system. What Ernst has done, he has developed an agriculture which is based on feeling, on having intuitions, and the results are just incredible. The problem, the limit of this type of agriculture is that it's very difficult to teach people to become intuitive.
Mm-hmm. But that means that, well, syntropy has practical applications. I don't know if you remember, you can comment other aspects where syntropy is involved.
Well, for example, one of the fields where syntropy has big application is in decision making. Because usually when we have to do big decisions, we don't have time to use our brain and evaluate all the possibilities. What happens is that in these critical moments, we have to use our intuitions and in a way be able to feel the future and trust these feelings. And so decision makers are often trained to feel their intuitions and learn to rely on them, because often we don't rely on intuitions because we only give value to what is certain, to the past, to what we know.
That is interesting, because in your books you talk about the heart, certain warmth in the heart when you have to make a decision, like you say. So that means that there is this communication between heart and brain.
Yes.
And it seems that heart is faster.
Well,
I don't know if I can say like this.
What happens is that when we're going towards the right direction, the amount of converging energy increases, and so we feel warmth and well-being in this area. And this area works a bit like a compass. When we feel warmth, we're going in the right direction. When we feel emptiness and pain, it means that we're going in the wrong direction. What is important is to experiment with these feelings and try to follow those directions that are signaled by this warmth and well-being. But what happens is that the brain doesn't know why this area, the heart, is telling us to go in that direction. So we often get into a conflict between the heart and the brain that tell us different things.
Yes, very interesting. And well, this takes us to the relationship of syntropy and spirituality. Is that a connection?
Yes, there is a connection in many ways. One is that since syntropy is connected to the future and we cannot see the future, the idea is that our reality is divided in two. One part is visible and the other part is invisible, and spirituality is linked to the invisible side of reality, which would be the syntropic side. And so there is a big connection between syntropy and spirituality.
I think the one last thing interesting to talking about is about synchronicities.
Yes.
How syntropy links to synchronicity.
Well, in the moment that attractors are manifesting into the present, we see coincidences happening, things that have a very low probability of happening together, but they do. And since there is an attractor in the future that is causing them, these coincidences have a meaning, have a purpose, because they are in a way guiding us towards a final end. So our life can be immersed in synchronicities, and when synchronicities happen, usually they can bring a lot into our life.
Mm-hmm. And the last one, what are your expectations about the research in syntropy for the future?
Well, I think that a lot of people will come out with this kind of theory, probably giving different names to it. But if this interpretation, if this theory is, say, real, it has something to do with reality, it will be discovered by many, and so I expect it to become quite well known in the future. Maybe it will not be named syntropy, it could be used another term, but
with similar
meaning.
Meaning.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Ulisses, thank you
Grazie.
very much. Thank you very much for your interview. I think it became more clear what this very complex theory is. Thank you very much.
Grazie.